I'm just back there doing my thing, and no one's even paying attention, which is great. I love it. But now I have to stand in the front, and people are like, you know, making eye contact with them. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
I just want to put something over my face. But it's also you listen and hear the band so much differently too. Hello.
Hey, Justin, what's going on?
How are you?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, glad to do it. Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm Adam, and this is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new project and the new record.
Cool. Sounds great.
Awesome. We always start off born and raised. Where were you born and raised?
In Simsbury, Connecticut, near Hartford.
Okay. What was it like growing up there?
It was fine. It was a good spot once I started getting into music. It's like a really good spot to be because we're right between New York and Boston. There were tons of shows, like the heavy music, metal, and hardcore scene there was pretty great. There were always places to play, lots of kids putting on shows in basements and everything. So I felt really fortunate to be surrounded by that.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, how long would it take? Like, if you went to Boston, or you said like New York, is that the other spot that's
Yeah,
close?
pretty much.
I'm
Like,
so bad with the East Coast and
no, it's
geography, dude.
no, it's fine. I was right outside of Hartford, and it's like 2 hours west is New York and 2 hours east is Boston.
Oh, that's incredible. Would a lot of bands stop in Hartford, like when they were touring? I mean, even like, especially in that scene.
Yeah, there are some places in some other Connecticut towns, like New Haven had got a lot of shows, and New Britain had a club that got tons of shows. So yeah, lots of stuff came through. We were super lucky.
That's cool. And what about music? Do you come from a musical household as far as playing or anything?
Not terribly musical, but we did have a piano in the house that my mom could play a little bit. And my mom does take credit because she could play a little bit of guitar, and she's playing when she was pregnant with me, so she does take credit for any musical success.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm sure she's right. Something trickled in there, I'm sure.
Sure. Did she ever continue playing, like when you were growing up or anything? Did you see her playing guitar or
No,
no?
I don't really remember her playing guitar much at all. I still have her guitar though. I have it was like an old nylon string guitar that like one of those classical ones. It's I still have
That's
it.
cool. That's really cool. What about the first instrument? Did you learn guitar first or drums or something totally different?
Something totally different.
Okay.
I can't believe you didn't guess. Viola was the first instrument that I started playing.
Really?
Yep.
What drew you to that?
I guess that maybe I tinkered around on the piano a little bit, but I never took lessons that I can remember. But in school, I think it was in fourth grade was the first year you could really start learning an instrument. And I think the only ones available were string instruments. I think you had to wait till fifth grade to play something else. So yeah, I just picked viola for whatever, who knows what reason. But I think I only played that 1 year and then switched to trumpet. I played trumpet a lot for a good solid 4 years or so. And then once I got into drumming, I started playing drums. And my dad had played drums when he was younger too. So there was an old drum kit laying around the house. And then once I discovered that in the basement, I started hitting it a little bit. But again, I can't remember ever watching my dad play drums. I mean, I remember asking him and he didn't want to play in front of me. So I don't know if I immediately was good and he was like, "Oh, I'm not playing for it," or what reason. Yeah.
Wow. How old were you when you discovered the drum set?
13, I think, is when I kind of switched from trumpet to drums.
Were you playing trumpet in the school, like marching band or jazz band or something like that?
Yeah, I was playing in whatever concert bands, and I think jazz band I was playing in. And I wasn't bad. I think I was all right at trumpet, but I did sell it to buy my first double bass pedal.
Oh, really? Was that at around 13?
Yeah, sometime around that, or maybe the year after. I can't remember. But yeah, once I found drums, I was just all in on drums.
Did you stop playing in the concert band, or did you play percussion in the concert band?
I stopped for 2 years, and then I eventually, my junior year and senior year of high school, I started playing percussion in like the concert band. And guess the jazz band. I honestly can't even remember the jazz band if I played in that or not. I don't think I did.
Okay.
But I remember playing in trumpet and jazz band in junior high school. And then when like rehearsal was over, I would go over to the drum set and noodle on that for a little while. So I think
Okay.
that's when I was really starting to be like, I'd rather do this.
Sure, sure. Was there like, I mean, you talked about you selling a trumpet to get the double bass pedal. Like, what bands were you listening to that, or drummers that you're like, oh my gosh, like I want to learn how to do that?
Well, like the first major drummer was John Bonham. It's the most typical list ever. So it's
Okay.
John Bonham, then Neil Peart, and then
Okay.
after that, I started getting into more heavy music, and I think Slayer and Anthrax were the two bands that got me into more metal and faster playing, and where I was like, okay, I need that double bass pedal now.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you about that. Like, because I don't know drums all that well. I have a 6-year-old son that I'm kind of trying to push onto the drums. Like, he's been taking lessons for a bit, but I feel
Nice.
like that's the instrument that, anyone, there's a million guitar players, but I feel like in the town, if you know a drummer, like that's like the go-to. You kind of have the pick of any band you want to play in. Um,
But you're
but
gonna
like,
have to deal with the noise, though.
we
That's the
bought him an
thing.
electric drum kit. The
There you
beauty
go.
of it. Yeah. We found, when COVID first was going, it was like, we have this where he was 5 at the time and he has a ton of energy. So it was like, what can we give him that can kind of get this out? And yeah, the headphones and the nitro, whatever,
Yeah.
electric kit.
Those
It's
are
been
so much
great.
better than they used to be too, because you can go crazy on those and get the ones that like almost look like real drums and like feel like real drums too, and
Yeah,
they
his is
sound
pretty
like a
cool. Like
million
the
stuff.
kick is actually like a real kick drum. Like
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
just like a trigger. It's like it actually has the kick. So that's been cool. And like he has a drum teacher and everything. But like John Bonham and Neil Peart, they didn't really play double bass, right? Or maybe they did. It's parts of songs that I didn't even really pick out.
Bonham didn't. I've read stories that he would set up another bass drum sometimes, and then when he would like go to the bathroom, the other guys in the band would take it away. They didn't want him to. So he didn't at all. Neil did a little bit, but not so much in a metal sense, not so
Okay.
much. There would be more like little flourishes into something, or if he was doing like a fill, it would be in the middle of a fill, not in like the way that like Slayer or Anthrax would have consistent double
Like the
bass
riff.
runs,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
the way like there'd be stop start double bass parts. That was probably maybe Fear Factory was one of the first bands I really heard do like intricate rhythmic double bit that like was sit in sync right with the guitar part. Early
Uh-huh.
versions of that.
Okay. And when you heard that, were you into metal? I mean, you must have been into metal at the time,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
was it because I have friends that were, or one really good friend of mine who was a drummer, and he just took to metal, I think, because it was so much. It was just playing fast and loud, and like just something about that instead of just like a standard drum beat. It was like, okay, now I can do the double kick. Was there something exciting about that?
Totally. I and I also think that I was a soccer player and was like, I think my main, I guess as a kid, kids don't have identities, but as a kid, I was like soccer focused, like super soccer
Oh,
focused.
okay.
And then switching to drums, and then I became super drum focused. And I think that drumming is kind of a very athletic instrument, especially
Sure.
when you're doing double bass. It's almost like you're running. So I think that's something that I liked a lot coming from doing soccer and being somewhat of a, you know, an athlete in that sense. So I think I liked the way that felt, almost
Mhm.
like you're running and playing an instrument at the same time.
Yeah. I'm sure you probably just had to teach yourself what double bass and how to play like that. Was
Yeah, I
there
did.
teachers around that were like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to play this, double kick drum?
There probably were, but I just was teaching myself and going in the basement and putting records on and playing along the records all the time. Pretty much what I did.
Oh, wow. And what about a band? What was the first band you joined?
First band I joined was it was a metal, obviously a metal band, kind of thrash band at first. It's called Red Tide, and it was some friends from high school.
Hmm.
And I actually played in that band for almost 10 years.
I was going to say that I know the name. Like you guys were around for a while, right? So
We
that
were
was the
around for a
first
long time.
band
That
that
was the
you ever
first,
played
yeah.
in.
That was the first band. I might have like had a couple friends come over and like jam the song or something, but I can't say that they were ever a band. You know, I don't think we ever had a
Mhm.
name or whatever. And it was that, and we play a bunch of a bunch of metal songs, and then we started writing our own songs. Like we went to a show somewhere, like a hardcore show somewhere, and saw um, other people that were not too much older than us, slightly older than us, playing their own music, and we're like, whoa, that's crazy. So then we started writing our own music, and then it went from thrash into like um, jazz metal, and then it just went super experimental after that. So we didn't exactly have much of a following, but it was really fun, and we were doing some weird stuff that was pretty cool.
Did you do that like, I mean, because you said you started in high school with that band?
Yeah, I started when we were 15, and I I think we just finally wrapped it up and kind of gave up when I was 24 or 25.
Wow. But was that kind of the full-time gig for like a lot of those years or no?
No, it was just I mean, it was just uh it was a high school band, and then college we just kept playing, like, or just play shows whenever we could get them. And then when I got out of college, it was the same thing. We just played whatever shows we could get. We didn't get a ton of shows. We never got a tour, so we never had that. So
Okay.
it was always just random local shows. So that was all we could do. But then we just wrote
Okay.
a bunch of music and tried to put out a couple CDs ourselves, and that was pretty
Mhm.
much it.
Okay. You were going to college. Were you going to college for music or for something totally different?
I did actually. I went to University of Connecticut for music and music performance, and you don't go to those schools and do metal drumming, so it was a lot different. But
Yeah. What type of music were you playing?
it was all classical stuff,
Okay.
classical and like modern ensemble, playing like percussion ensemble stuff, and playing in the orchestra and playing in the wind ensemble and doing all that kind of stuff, and learning music history and everything. So that's what I was doing.
What was the like? Were you trying to like if the band didn't work out? Like, what were you trying to pursue? Like, where did you see yourself
I was
within
hoping,
that?
yeah, I was hoping to be just a musician, like a freelance musician, or playing in an orchestra somewhere or something like that. I didn't go for education. I didn't see myself as being like a teacher in a middle school or high school.
Okay.
I couldn't see myself doing that. So it was going for performance to try to land a job. Really, I was hoping in an orchestra or something like that.
Okay. And then when were you still in school or did you graduate when you're the next band came through with Blood Has Been Shed? Like, did that start when you're still in college or was that after the fact?
That started when I was in, let's see, when did I join them? I think it was right after I did grad school, because I did grad school too at Hart in University of Hartford, also music performance. And I think right after that is when I started playing with Blood Has Been Shed. Meanwhile, Red Tide was still happening, but I wasn't
Okay.
playing much. Blood Has Been Shed was people actually, knew about that band and went to see that band. So that was cool.
Hmm.
It was kind of like a notch up from the indifference that Red Tide was suffering from at the local scene.
Yeah.
And it
And
was the
did you just
first,
know
like,
those guys? Like, how'd you get into that band or get hooked up with them?
I think everyone in that scene, like I mentioned, how lucky we were to be so close to everything, that people
Hmm.
just knew each other from lots of different bands. I mean, if you look at the Killswitch history, um,
Yeah.
everyone knew each other from other bands, and then they formed their own bands. It was kind of that kind of thing where Red Tide had played some shows with What Has Been Shed, so I didn't know them well, but I knew of them. And then the guitar player Corey wanted to do some really weird stuff, and the drummer John was like, "Well, I don't want to play drums for that. That's crazy. I'll switch to bass. Find some weirdo
Oh,
that."
wow.
And he was like, "Find some weirdo that will understand what the hell you're asking him to do, because I don't know what you're talking about." And so I think he saw us play, and he thought, "Oh, maybe that guy gets it." He talked to me about his ideas, and we were both into Meshuggah and way into music, crazy rhythmic patterns and everything. So we started talking about that, and then um, then yeah, and then it just worked out that I started playing in Blood at the Shed. And that was the
Wow.
first
And
time I
did you?
toured ever. And like,
Oh, it was okay.
yeah, we did a couple tours, nothing too crazy, like a week or 12-day tours, like that kind of thing. But yeah, but it's the first time I was ever able to do that. So that was cool.
Yeah, that must have been exciting to, now you're in a band, like you said, that has people showing up and you get to tour
Yeah.
the country or whatever. I mean, that
They're on
was,
a label, like
yeah.
that kind
I
of
mean,
thing. I'm like, oh, cool.
that's a rad. And is
Wasn't
that
paying any
how?
bills, but it was fun, and it was still another step up on the thing. So that was a really
And you're
cool.
still doing grad school at the time, or had you
I was
finished
just
grad
out of
school?
it, and I
Okay.
was working. I was teaching privately, like I was the teacher that would teach your son.
Yeah.
Like I
Okay.
had
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
job, and then I was also getting random freelance work in smaller Connecticut symphonies, not the big ones, but like the smaller ones, trying to work
Mhm.
my way up the call list, that kind of stuff. And I was also accompanying dance classes, like modern dance. So I was
Oh,
sitting
cool.
in a corner with a piano and some hand drums, and they would have their class, and I would just be providing the music for it. So that was what was
Wow.
going on. I was trying to put all that together to, have a music life, music jobs.
Hmm. I'm just curious. And I know this is moving ahead a little bit, but with guitar, because you play guitar in the project, this current project, were you learning? Or did you always kind of know how to play guitar? Like, where did that kind of fall in?
I started learned a little bit when I was playing drums in like high school, I would say,
Oh,
because
okay.
uh, you can't play drums forever without your parents
R-
wanting to kill you.
You're
So I
right.
would
I
get
was gonna
like,
say if you had probably a circumstance where you're just sitting around, maybe because the guitar is just
yeah,
such a more portable instrument.
totally. Like they would give me an hour a day to play drums, but then the rest of the day I still wanted some kind of musical fix. So I would, put the Rush VHSs on, have my guitar and try to figure out parts. Like, or Song Remains the Same. I would put that on and try to figure out parts. And I never really considered myself a guitar player at all, or even knew how to do it, but I was just kind of noodling and trying to figure it out. And it just sort of kept doing that on and on and on and on and on until this. And then I was like, okay, now when you really need to sort of figure out if I want to do this band and I want to actually play guitar in it, I need to try to figure out how to do it right and to practice a lot and like really try to get it down.
Okay. Just to go back to where we were before.
Sure.
So you joined Killswitch right out of that band, and how did that? Was that similar? Where you so there was a bunch of people, just you're all kind of from the same area. You just knew those guys. Because Howard was in that band and then ended up joining Killswitch too. But you had joined Killswitch prior to him joining, right?
Nope. After. So that was
Oh,
after.
after. Okay.
So Howard joined and he was touring with them, and he was just saying that the drummer, it just wasn't going to work out going forward with the drummer, and they were probably going to be looking for somebody. And he was like, hey, look for this guy, I know him, he can do it. And
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's pretty much where that came from.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Yeah, for whatever reason, I thought he had joined after you, but
No,
so
no.
he was kind of your in once he
Yeah,
was in that
exactly.
band. What was that call like? Did he call you up and say, "Hey, Justin, like, do you want to? I'm playing with Killswitch. Do you want to join us?" Or like, because they were probably pretty big even at early 2000s, right?
Yeah, they were doing stuff like they went to Europe and they did an Ozfest. I think the last thing they did before I joined was Ozfest, the first time that the band did Ozfest.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was cool. So like they were, things are going well for them. And again, they had a label, and Roadrunner too, not just like a label. Like it was Roadrunner. Like I had a million CDs from Roadrunner Records, like so many metal CDs, and like some of
Oh,
my,
yeah,
my
they're
favorite bands were
massive.
on that. So it was like a
Yeah.
crazy. It was a really cool thing. And then they had a tour coming up, and um, yeah, I think I talked to Adam once about maybe jamming with them when they had a chance. So I went over and I played with them, and I think they were just like, oh, okay, cool, whatever, let's go on tour. I don't think they gave it. I don't think they gave it too much of a thought. But I guess I didn't blow it because I stuck around.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. And then, I mean, yeah, like you said, to go from that to like an Ozfest band, and then the first album that you record on with them is like Grammy nominated. I mean, that's
Yeah,
just like how
crazy.
it seems like it elevated so quickly at that
It
point. I
really
mean, at
did.
least in your career, yeah.
It was nuts. Yeah, it absolutely was nuts. So only having done a couple small van tours, um, and then to be on a tour that's that's doing like pretty well. That first Headbangers Ball tour with us and Lamb of God and Shadows Fall and Unearth and God Forbid, and that show is doing really well. Um, it was just like all of a sudden the crowds were just like far bigger than anything that I'd played in front of before. And then, you know, then the very next year that record comes out and it does well. And then first time we go to Europe, first time we go to Australia, Japan, all this stuff. So it was really fun, really cool, crazy times. And we did so much more touring than we would ever agree to now.
Oh,
Like without a
really?
break. Yeah. Now we're like, no way, we can't do that. And then we had these stretches with like a day or two home in between long tours. And yeah, we'd never do that now. But then, you know, we were younger then and the band was just starting and we did it all and it all worked out. So
Mhm.
do it again.
Um, when you joined them, and I mean, going into the End of the Heartache, were you like nervous at all to record with that band? Like, that was probably the biggest project you had been a part of? Were you like, was there a lot of pressure going into that or not as much?
I don't know. I don't remember that much feeling too stressed about it. Um, I remember actually it was nice because we had more time than anything else I'd ever done. I would have like a day to do all the drum tracks because that's all the time we would have in the studio. So we actually had
Oh,
time to do it. So I think it was even less pressure than normal because I was like, oh, this is easy. I got like 4 days to do these drum parts. Oh, no problem. Like
oh
that's
yeah, you
gonna be
weren't
a
like
piece
under
of
the
cake.
gun, like, okay, we only have 2 days to record, the whole album. Go
Right.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, right, right.
Okay.
That's kind of
Interesting.
more what I remember it feeling like.
That's interesting. So talk to me about this new project. You play guitar. It's just all instrumental. It's a
Mhm.
rad record.
Oh, thanks.
What does the idea, like, how does the idea start? Lybica, is it like, it was this during COVID, or like, how did the project kind of spark?
Yeah, it did start during COVID, but a little bit before COVID, I talked to my friends Doug and Joey that live in the same town as me, or like one town over. Oh, they were musicians in other bands, and um, we became good friends. And as musicians and friends do, they talk to each other about, hey, we should play together sometime. It would be fun to do that. But you almost never do. But when
Right.
COVID happens, there was no excuse not to. Because none of us had anything to do, or as much to do. At least I certainly didn't have anything to do. I wasn't going to be going on tour or doing anything for a while. So we had kind of talked about doing something that we had a lot of shared musical interest in heavy music and that kind of stuff. And I talked about how I wanted to do a band that sort of sounded like a mix of like Isis and like Caspian and Mogwai, but a little bit more metal, maybe traditional metal influence in it, with like dueling guitar leads, like old Metallica or Thin Lizzy style leads. And just seeing how to throw that all together and try to write an instrumental band. And they were into the idea, and I had some stuff that I had written over the years that I didn't really have a place for, that was just kind of sitting on my computer. So I played them a few of the demos, and they were into it, and said, "All right, well, why not jam some stuff together?" And we did, and it was a lot of fun. And Doug actually switched from being a drummer to bass. He didn't want to play drums; he wanted to play something different, play bass. So
Oh,
two of us were dishing the drums for stringed instruments, and we just kind of went from there. And um, yeah, really, before we knew it, we actually had a bunch of songs together. And almost a full record came together pretty quickly.
wow. Were you with Killswitch? Were you guys already on a break when the pandemic hit, or did you guys have to get
Oh,
sent
we
back from tour? Like, where were you at?
we were two shows into our headlining, supposed to be 6 week tour, when that shut everything down.
Oh
So
my
we were
god.
like totally screwed, because you have all these all the money that's spent on production and rent, like just all that stuff. And we also live pretty spread out now. So it wasn't even really a very feasible option of getting together to write or to even jam. So it was really like just like radio silence for that band for a long, long time.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah, it
like
was
being
rough.
Yeah, I interviewed Jesse like a year and a half ago, and I couldn't remember. He probably told me something similar. Like, yeah, you guys had. Now I'm remembering. Like, yeah, you just had started, and then it was like, okay, now everybody go home.
Yeah, and it was there was a US headline run for that record that came out a few months prior,
Hmm.
4 months prior, or whatever it was. So that was like the big tour, and then just done nothing.
Oh my gosh, were you see? I mean, maybe you didn't even notice since you had only gone a few shows in. Like, I've talked to other artists where they were starting to see the shows kind of dwindle down. It was like big, and then mid March, like before the pandemic, it was like they knew a certain amount of tickets were sold, but not the crowd wasn't there, right? Or it was a sellout
Huh.
and half the people show up. Like, did you
Oh
see any
no,
of that or
no,
not?
not yet. No, not yet.
Okay.
We had two awesome shows that we were like, this tour is gonna kill it. And then
Oh
it's like
wow. And then it
it's
was
totally gone.
were you on the way somewhere when that happened? Like, do you like getting the call? It was like,
Oh
hey,
yeah,
it's
it's
time
very
to.
memorable. I mean, the first show um was when things really started, because that week was so crazy how fast everything was going, and like information was changing by the hour on
Yeah.
what was happening. And like the first, and then the second show, I remember that day, and we had meet and greets too. And the meet and greet, the kids were like, "Don't worry, I'm not sick. It hasn't come to Michigan. Everything's fine." But like all day, we're seeing that the place we're going to go to over the weekend is is like you're gonna go at half capacity.
Half
Like
capacities and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it was like DC. They're passing like all these places that we're about to head to are saying, "Nope, we're cutting down capacity." And then like 2 hours later, like, "Oh, we're cutting it down even more, like just because we're going so fast." Then we had a day off um, in Pittsburgh, and that was the day. I'm pretty sure that was the day that the NBA canceled the season, and the
That
day
was
that
like it, right? I
yeah,
mean,
March Madness was gone, all of that, and was like, "Nope, tour is gone." Like, and then we just went home the next day. That's how fast it all went off a cliff.
yeah, I remember that. It was, yeah, the NBA canceled. My dad was ahead. He went out to spring training for baseball. I remember he was, and I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna do this. Like, it was kind of on that brink of everything getting weird. And like he had
Yeah.
just got to Arizona and he called me. He's like, yeah, they canceled all the games. I'm like, yeah, that was what a while. I forgot about that. Like how quickly, and then it was like NBA, and then at that point, everyone knew it was over.
It was so fast. It was so fast. Yeah.
Jeez.
And I remember
So
like flying home and being at the airport, just like like you didn't want to be
yeah,
there because you didn't know. We know
no
so
one
much.
knew
I mean,
anything.
yeah, you still there's a lot that we still don't know, but no one knew anything at all back then. Nothing.
Right.
It was crazy.
It was one of those things where it was like, it's not going to happen here. And then so fast, it was like,
Yeah.
everything's going to stop. Like, wait, what? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. So
Nuts.
crazy. So when you get back, you're home, and then obviously, probably not for a couple of weeks. You're just before you start, really talking about this project.
Yeah.
Like, when does that, like, how far into the pandemic are you? Like a month or two in, and you're like, yeah, I really want to try to do something. And was the Lybica stuff started or was it started kind of via Dropbox, or were you able to get together a little bit to start writing the record?
I think it's a little tough for me because that was March, and I'm pretty sure the first time we actually got together to like jam tunes or like to show each other some riffs was I think in May. And
Oh
I'm pretty
wow.
sure that before that I just kind of sent a couple like just like whatever recordings off and like here, check this out. What do you think of this or whatever. And I
Mhm.
think May is when we first got together and started like showing each other stuff. And we didn't have a drummer, so when we did do that, we were just playing along to the drums that were in the demos, like the drum tracks of the demos.
Did you record the drum tracks for the demos?
Yep. Yep, I
Okay,
did
I
that. I
figured.
did that. Yeah, I did that in my house. I just have a kit set up and just goes right into Logic. And so we started doing that, and then it was crazy because I was mentioning this to somebody else, and it just doesn't seem. I just thought I was getting the years wrong or something, but it definitely wasn't. We recorded the record in January of 2021, so it really doesn't seem like a long time at all when I look back on it, to getting that together, to having two guys switching instruments, to feeling like, hey, we can
Yeah.
record this now. Let's do it and record it. So it really seems quick looking back on it.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, for sure. And then you guys just waited to release the record because it just. I mean, it came out what 2 months ago now.
Yeah, we recorded it and had it mixed, and then we just had it, and then we shopped it and like uh sent it out there to see if anyone was interested, because we didn't know, we didn't assume, I didn't make any assumptions that anyone was going to be interested in the album. um but Killswitch's managers, Kenny and Vaughn, were into it, and they said, yeah, we'll take you guys on too. We like it, we can do some cool stuff with it. We're like, all right, awesome. And
Wow.
they have a good relationship with so many people because they've been doing it forever, and obviously Metal Blade is included in that, and Metal Blade wanted to do it.
Hmm.
So there's a certain amount of time that all that takes, and then there's also the lead in. Metal Blade wants a certain amount of lead in time to set the record up properly, and also vinyl pressing just takes forever. Like, it's so far out now. It's like
Oh, I know. I've
months
heard
and
that
months
a
out.
lot of
So
people having issues with just even getting, especially back then, like even getting the vinyl pressed at all.
getting it pressed at all, yeah. So we made sure to build enough time so that it would all happen properly. So that's kind of where the whole delay came from. And then it was
Mhm.
during that time when we decided to look for a drummer and try and find another member. We didn't want it to be something where we would just have somebody just come in and here and there to drum. Like, we want an actual band
A
member. We want it
band.
to be a band. So that was cool.
Yeah. That must be cool to, I mean, just I was looking at some of the, you guys have done some shows and just some of like playing like a no cover bar. That's probably
Yeah.
so, I mean, for you playing to thousands upon thousands of people to now you get to play more little club shows again. Like that must be like kind of a cool nostalgia
Yeah,
feeling.
it would be a lot cooler if there were more than 8 people there, but yes, it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Not the greatest of turnouts so far, but we're working on it, and we're just starting. Like, no one knows anything yet, so that's how you build it up. So
Yeah.
we're working on it.
I mean, I'm surprised there's just like kill switch fans in general aren't like, oh my God, I gotta go just meet you or whatever, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I also didn't expect, like, I didn't have any crazy idea that this was going to be a giant hit with Killswitch fans. It's a much different band, and I don't take anything
Yeah, for
for
sure.
granted that way. That everyone is just going to go over, and also, like, music fans are just sort of real specific about what they like. So I didn't just assume that everyone's just going to jump ship and be like, oh, cool, let's
Yeah.
love this band too. But yeah, we're working on it. We've had some good ones too, and in general, become a we just need to play shows to become a tighter, better live band also. So in that sense, it doesn't matter how many people are there, if it's a shot show or if it's a good show. Anytime that we're somewhere new in a different environment playing together, it's good, because you never know what you're going to be able to hear, what you aren't going to be able to hear, and all that stuff.
Mhm.
One thing to just play in your rehearsal space over and over again, with nothing to go in different rooms and like have to deal with, oh, I can't hear anything today, but we got to get through it, that kind of thing. So it's all
With
part of that.
yeah, like playing those shows and having it be instrumental. Not only that, but like now you're the guitarist. Was that a different feeling? You just know the drums so well and just being back there and now you've kind of put yourself to the front. Was that a was that difficult at all? Or like tell me about that experience,
Yeah,
just being in the front now instead of behind the kit.
it's a lot different. It's a lot different. And for one thing, I like being behind the kit because I really enjoy kind of being a drummer that you just sort of disappear. You're not really the focal of the band. I like that. I don't
Hmm.
I feel more comfortable that way. I don't like looking out and see people looking at me. No one does it at Killswitch show because Adam's running around and there's all kinds of craziness happening. So
Yeah.
I'm just back there doing my thing, and no one's even paying attention, which is great. I love it. But now I have to stand in the front, and people are like, you know, making eye contact with them. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
I just want to put something over my face. But it's also you listen and hear the band so much differently too, and you're in a lot less control of tempos, and just yeah, you just have a lot less control as a guitar player, which is cool because you can relax more. But it's also just different. It's entirely different. Listening is different. The way you hear everything else is different. It's all um, it's like starting over playing shows again. It really is that much different.
Hmm. Yeah, because you're not keeping time for the whole thing anyway. Like you, as the drummer, you're basically you're steering the ship forward, right? As far as the rhythm goes, and as a guitarist, you kind of are following a bit to what they're doing.
Totally. I never have anything to drink before we play a Killswitch show because I feel like I get in my own head way too much, and I think I'm screwing all the tempos up, or I'm just playing really poorly. And the other guys have power hour before the set, so
I'm sure.
that's it.
Yeah.
But I'm just sitting there. I'm the one sober guy up there. But guitar, yeah, I've discovered, yeah, I can have a few beers, no problem. It's like I don't have that stress level of the tempo being right or all that being on me, because it's a lot harder to really train wreck a show on guitar than it is with drums. Like drums,
Right.
you do something weird, and train wreck is a very, very big possibility. But with drumming, with guitar, I don't think that same pressure is there.
Be a little looser for sure.
Just a little looser, yeah.
Do you have do you banter between songs and stuff, like having no vocals on a whole record, or is it just you come out there with no mics?
We've used a mic, and Doug's kind of just said like, "Hey, what's up?" And then later on, "All right, see you guys." Like that's
Oh, okay, it was very minimal.
yeah. But Doug and I also went to a Russian Circle show not too long ago, and they don't even bother with a mic. Nothing.
Really, just nothing.
Yeah. Cruise out there, play, cruise right back out. That's awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. And then is this going to be a project? It's not, I mean, you said it's a band, so is this going to be something that you would take on the road, or you kind of when you have off time from Killswitch, is this something you want to focus on quite a bit, or move
Yes.
forward, write more songs for it?
Yeah, I would love to take it on tour. I'd love to spend Killswitch off time doing as many shows as possible. Definitely want it to be a band. I want to try to have a few records and see how the band grows, because we haven't really, because the way I described that last writing process, we haven't had a writing process with all four of us, kind of from the get-go. So I'm sure that will be a way that the band can grow into something. I'm curious to see where it goes.
That's awesome. Well, I think the record you guys have out now is awesome, and it's cool to hear and see you doing this, as such a great drummer, to see, and taking the guitar part of it, and doing that piece of, and it's just a different sound, like you said, obviously, than what you're doing before, or what you're doing other than this.
Yes, right. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much, Justin, for doing this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you a lot for having me. It's awesome.
I have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yeah, play as much as possible. Pretty much it. Play as much with as many different people as you can. Like, always be willing to play stuff, even if you don't feel like it's that comfortable, or if it's not what you think you want to do. Just to do it, because maybe something about it will grab you in a way you didn't expect, and take you in another direction like that. It's always just like it's always want to play as much as you can, basically, as much as you can, with as many people as you can, as many different styles as you can. Just be open to all of that.